Hi, everyone. Welcome to the May 13th edition of Horses to Watch. On the show this week, I'm going to take a look back at three replays from last week, and I like this mix of videos that we've got because there are three different situations. We've got an impressive debut winner, we've got a horse that was against a track bias in a race, and we've got an interesting pace situation to discuss. Let's begin with that debut winner. This is actually a race from last Wednesday at Tampa Bay Downs, and it's one that some people might have missed because a lot of the focus these days, especially this past week, was on Gulfstream. But this race on Wednesday at Tampa was pretty impressive, and I want to take a look at it from start to finish. Let's break them from the gate. We're going to focus on the number one horse, Talaco. As I mentioned at the start, this is a horse that was making his career debut for trainer Jorge Navarro. Wilmer Garcia is the rider on this day, and this maiden special weight at Tampa actually came up with a decent field. There was a heavy favorite in this race, the number 8 horse who had had multiple starts before, for Shug McGahee. There was also another first-time starter in this race, one who took a lot more money. That was the number 9 horse for Mike Stidham, who was a son of the champion Dreaming Havana. But it's the number 1 horse, Talaco, who's going to be successful in this race. And I don't often highlight winners on this show, but this is one that I think you want to follow down the line as he goes on to bigger and better things. Moving on to the backstretch here, you can see that Wilmer Garcia got this horse a pretty good inside position around the clubhouse turn, saved plenty of ground. And as they're moving down the backside, he's just going to seamlessly move up in between horses. You see him splitting rivals on the backstretch. He's going to advance up into about 5th place by the time they run around the far turn. The part of this race that you really want to pay attention to, though, is once they round that far turn, come to the quarter pole, and get into the stretch, because this horse is going to unleash quite the turn of foot. You see they're not moving that quickly up front, 24 and 48 and 2 for a half mile, not really that fast for a mile at Tampa Bay Downs, especially in a high-quality maiden event. But as this runner now swings 4 wide for the stretch drive and comes around these horses, check out the stride on this son of Caraconte. He's really just eating up the ground with these big loping strides, and he's going to easily move past these 2 horses. And it takes a little while for Wilmer Garcia to straighten him out in the lane. But in this final 1/8 of a mile, once he gets him to level off, he really strides out beautifully towards the finish. He runs this final 1/8 of a mile in, I think, about 11.5 seconds. And since he finished so quickly, if you look at the Timeform US speed figures for this race, the final time number for this race was a 1:06. But this horse actually got a 1:12 Timeform US speed figure because he got that pace bonus for coming home so quickly at the end of a race that didn't feature that fast of a pace. So I think this horse has some real talent. I think I mentioned he's a son of Caraconte, the Breeders' Cup Mile winner. The Dam one going, I think, as far as a 1 3/8 or a 1.5 in France. So there is some stamina on the bottom side. Seems like Jorge Abreu and John Gunther, who's the owner and breeder of this horse, they've got a pretty good one on their hands when this horse tries tougher spots in the future. So definitely look for this horse in stakes down the line. Let's stay on the turf and also stay in Florida, but move down south to Gulfstream Park and take a look at a race there on Friday's card. It's the 8th race. This one's also going a mile, but it's 4 winners. This was a starter allowance race, and I want to focus on 2 horses in this race, and this is that one that I mentioned at the top, featured an unusual pace situation that we're going to talk about. Let's break it from the gate, and I want to focus on the number 1 Mandate and the number 3 Montana Man. Now, watch Montana Man and those white silks down towards the inside as they move under the wire the first time. Mandate, the number 1, is just going to drop towards the back of the pack. He doesn't have a whole lot of speed. But the number 3 Montana Man in those white and blue silks down on the inside and about mid-pack, he's a horse that was projected to be on the lead in this race. And he's a horse who had shown plenty of early speed in his prior starts. For whatever reason, I don't know if it was the fact that they were just kind of slow into, he was kind of slow into stride, or his rider wasn't that aggressive, but you see the pace here is backing down quite a bit. And I think I misspoke at the start. This is actually a 7.5 furlong race. And in these 7.5 furlong turf races at Gulfstream, they head right into the turn. All the riders from the outside try to get over. And sometimes if you're not aggressive, breaking from down towards the inside in post 1, 2, and 3, your horses can get shuffled back more than the riders really want them to. And you see at this point in the race, the number 3 Montana Man and the number 1 Mandate are in the last 2 positions, and that's not where you want to be when you see fractions being posted like this, 24 and 3, 49. That's just crawling for a 7.5 furlong race at Gulfstream Park. And I think it's to the credit of both of these horses that they actually put in some decent late runs. I don't know what the plan was for the rider of Montana Man, the number 3 horse, and Mestiel Jaramillo's on him. He just shows no aggression and basically rides this horse like he doesn't think he has any shot to win the race. So he's one I would definitely give a shot to because he was, let's just say, not ridden to win this day. Mandate, though, watch the move that he makes in the stretcher. He's off the screen right now, but you're going to see those red silks flash into view. But right as they come to the wire, he actually almost gets up to win this race. And I think it's a credit to this horse's ability that he actually gets within about a length of winning this race, given where he was at the top of the stretch. Because remember, Mandate, the number 1 horse, was last moving down the backstretch, and he made the biggest move through the stretch of this race, overcoming that slow pace. So I think arguably Mandate was the best horse here. Mandate might also be one that wants to go farther than 7.5 furlongs in the future. Whereas Montana Man, not sure how good he is. I just think he's a horse that if he comes back in a similar spot next time in a race with a similar pace situation and his rider's more aggressive, he'll be far more successful. Let's finish things off on Sunday at Gulfstream Park. We're going to take a look at a dirt race this time. If you were watching Gulfstream on Sunday, you know the track took a lot of rain throughout the day. They were off the turf for the entire day. This was actually a scheduled dirt race, though. It was a claiming $50,000 down to $40,000, going 7 furlongs. And we're going to focus on the favorite in this race. That's the number 3, Yodeliehu, or Yodeliehu, I think that's how Pete Aiello says it. Breaking from the start of this race, this horse is going to break fine and go out towards the front end. He's in those light pink silks towards the middle of the pack there, and he makes a comfortable lead down the backstretch. The pace is going to heat up a little bit as they move down towards the far turn, but what you really want to focus on in this race is, as you watched these races progress on Sunday at Gulfstream Park, what you began to notice was that a lot of the winners, and really just the horses that were successful occupying those top 3 spots at the end of races, were coming down the center of the track, especially in the stretch. And I think positioned down towards the inside, or if you were down towards the rail for a large portion of any of these races, it just was really to the detriment of the horses. And you saw a lot of horses racing down towards the rail, just fading badly at the end. And you want to take note that this number 3 horse, Yodeliehu, he is down towards the inside as they round the far turn here. And this race is going to be dominated by horses that are well off the rail. I think the number 6, Fortune Cookie, is the winner of this race. The number 7, who's making a big sweeping move on the outside here, he's going to be the runner-up. And all things considered, I think the number 3, Yodeliehu, in this race runs pretty well to be 4th in here, because he's going to try to hold on and kick away from these horses at the top of the stretch, despite racing down inside on that deeper, stickier part of the racetrack. You see it's pretty wet there at Gulfstream in that sloppy track. And these 2 horses that are successful are going to drift well out into the center of the course, whereas the number 3 is just drifting closer to the rail. That's just not where you want it to be. And he is going to fade at the end of this race, but I think all things considered, he ran a lot better than it seems, because we didn't see many horses holding on even as well as he did that were down on the rail for that long in any of these races at Gulfstream Park on Sunday. So I think this runner deserves extra credit, and when he gets on a fair racetrack next time in a similar spot, he'll be far more successful. So those are all the races this week. Some horses to bet back off trips, some just to follow in the future, like the number 1 horse, Talaco, in that first race, who was so impressive, but runners that I think will be successful as we move down into the spring and summertime. So those are all the races on the show this week. We had a good mix, some horses who had trips, some who were just impressive winning a race. I don't often take a look at those, like Talaco in that first video, but I think all of these horses can be successful in the future as we follow these races moving on into the spring and summer. I'll be back next week to do 3 more horses to watch, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for listening.